Good morning everybody. Hey Harms. Just turn on a flare. Over on TikTok there's the ability to send up flares, which brings more people, and it's kind of a gamified element. It's very cool, but I always forget to use it, so I'm going to use it now. Let's finish the week with a big bang. It is Friday after all. Awesome. Good morning. Morning Jan, or Jan. Good morning everybody. Right. I'm sorry to the editor that I do this at the beginning of every stream, that just kind of blab for a while, but I'm sure it's not too hard to take out. That would be, I'm sure it's very annoying. Sorry, Mark. Awesome. Right. It is Friday the 24th. No, it is not. Let's start that again. It is Friday the 26th of September. This is the final AI with Kyle news update of the week before we move into next week. We've had a relatively busy week in terms of investment and also some models. We had the new Qwen releases coming out over this week, about 6 new models from Qwen, which I highly recommend you go and check out. But we haven't had much in the big Western model newses. We have got a couple of news items though from OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT today, including their Pulse. They have a new feature called Pulse, which is proactive AI. We'll talk about what that is and what that means. We also have a new report from Google called the Dora report, which shows that actually it does look like software development professionals are using AI. 90% of them are using AI. So this has been a number that has been going back and forward, how much code is being written with artificial intelligence, and it's used as a kind of a battle line about how good AI is. And this new report suggests that 90% of software developers are using AI, so that's quite a lot. 90% is a high number last time I checked. And we've also got some bits and pieces about deep faked Twin Peaks AI slop art on their Reddit, and Spotify are finally pushing back against AI music. So let's jump in. First of all, I want to talk about something called GDP-Val. Terrible name, but OpenAI are not known for their fantastic naming of things. So GDP-Val is a new evaluation. Val, GDP-Val. I don't think anyone ever said it out loud until now, and I'm sure when people do, they realise like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. So GDP-Val, a new evaluation that measures AI on, this is the important part, real-world economically valuable tasks. So recently, most of the models have been topping out our evaluations. So we have evaluations for writing, we have evaluations for code, evaluations for images, and topping out the evaluations is really important when a new model comes out because it's great for their marketing. So increasingly what people have been doing is basically training for the evaluation so they can get a high score. Grok in particular has been accused of this, of overfitting to the model. And we had some indication. There was a research report done by OpenAI saying one of the problems with our models right now, and the fact that they BS us and they glaze us and they make stuff up and they hallucinate, is because saying I do not know does not do well in the evaluations. If you say I don't know the answer to that in the evaluations, you get a score of 0, whereas in the evaluations, if you kind of make something up that sounds reasonable, there's a chance of a non-zero score. So evaluations as a whole are quite damaging to the industry because they're things, the models are practicing for the test. It's like when we study for exams and then we forget everything after the exam, and they are creating models that act in a certain way which is only good for the evaluations. So there's been a lot of criticisms about evals, and I think for good reason. So OpenAI are introducing a new type of evaluation called GDP-Val, which is measuring AI on real-world economically valuable tasks. So not just are you good at doing the evaluation, but are you good at doing tasks in the real world? Much more useful. So evals ground progress in evidence instead of speculation and help track how AI improves at the kind of work that matters most. I don't know if that's a clumsy sentence or just me warming up in the morning. So this does not yet, does it exist? I don't know if they've run anything on it. Let's pull it up. Here we go, GDP-Val. No, it looks like it's a paper at the moment. But let's have a look at what they're doing. So measuring the performance of our models on real world tasks. Good idea. Let's see what the implementation looks like. We're introducing GDP-Val, a new evaluation that measures model performance on economically valuable real-world tasks across 44 occupations. Okay, it'd be very interesting to know what those 44 occupations are, because that would tell us what they're focusing AI on, what type of tasks, what type of industries. Also, if you're in one of those 44 occupations, that would also make me a little bit worried. So it starts with the normal blurb. So our mission is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. So they're talking about AGI here. They're not talking about narrow intelligence, which is what we have now. They're talking about AGI, which is the next stage of AI. We're not sure if we can get to it using large language models, but we're fairly certain we'll get there at some point. Maybe. As part of our mission, we want to transparently communicate progress on how AI models can help people in the real world. That's why we're introducing GDP-Val, a new evaluation designed to help us track how well our models and others perform on economically valuable real-world tasks. We call this evaluation GDP-Val because we started with the concept of gross domestic product, GDP, as a key economic indicator that drew tasks from the key occupations in the industries that contribute most to GDP. Fascinating, because there are already issues with GDP. So some work is considered non-economically valuable labour. So bringing up children, for example, doesn't really reflect in GDP. So already, by focusing these vowels and therefore focusing the focus of the models and what we make them better at, we are already going to be shifting. I don't want to say focus again because I've already said it 4 times this sentence. We're going to be shifting what we are aiming at away from non-economically valuable work. So something like bringing up children does not show up on the GDP scale. It is not economically or labour valuable according to GDP. So therefore, if we are training our models to only create GDP valuable work, we're going to move them away from tasks like bringing up children. So let's see. People often speculate about AI's broader impact in society, but the clearest way to understand its potential is by looking at what models are already capable of doing. History shows that major technologies from the internet to smartphones took more than a decade to go from invention to widespread adoption. Yeah, AI has not. AI has moved really fast. So new AIs, modern AIs like generative AIs like large language models. AI has been around since the 1950s, so that's taken quite a while. Evaluations like GDP-Val help ground conversations about future improvements in evidence rather than guesswork and can help us track model improvements over time. Cool. So previous AI evaluations like challenging academic tests and competitive coding challenges have been essential in pushing the boundaries of model reasoning capabilities, but they often fall short of the kind of tasks that many people handle in their everyday work. Very true. And this is, as I was saying at the beginning, is why it's important to have these new type of evaluations, because the fact that they are now all acing the International Math Olympiad and the Intercollegiate Programming Competition, all the models are really good at these kind of things. The CFA exam, Chartered Financial Analyst, just got aced last week as well. All the models can do all of these tests now, pretty much, or they will be able to do so in a few months. So these kind of academic tests and competitive coding challenges won't make sense in 6 months' time because the AIs are already better than all of these things. Also, the fact that they're good at the International Math Olympiad is one thing. They can do really high-level mathematics, but they still can't do what we, normal mortals consider mathematics, things like arithmetic, because that's not really what they're made for. But that is a different conversation. I'm not going to talk about raspberries and the R's in raspberries again, because I will go mad. To bridge the gap, we've been developing evaluations that measure increasingly realistic and economically relevant capabilities. This progression has moved from classical academic benchmarks like MMLU to more applied evaluations like SWE Bench, software engineering, MLE Bench, machine learning engineering, and Paper Bench, which belong to OpenAI, scientific reasoning and critique on research papers. And more recently to market-based evaluations like SWE Lancer. Yeah, this one's really cool, where they give it freelance software engineering projects like on Upwork and on Fiverr, and they see how they do with them, which is a really cool transition from academic to real world. So GDP-Val is the next step in that progression. It measures model performance on tasks drawn directly from real-world knowledge work of experienced professionals. Interesting, knowledge work. That's important. Not all work, but knowledge work, because that's what large language models and AI is good at. Across a wide range of occupations and sectors, providing a clear picture of how models perform on economically valuable tasks. Evaluating models on realistic occupational tasks helps us to understand not just how well they perform in the lab, but how they might support people in the work they do every day. This is fantastic, because sometimes a model will come out and it will have it will score at the top of all the evals, but when we, normal people, use it, we're like, oh, that's a bit rubbish. Because they've got very good at doing tests, but not necessarily helping us in everyday life. And sometimes models stay at the top of these evaluation tables for ages. Think of Gemini 2.5 in particular. Gemini 2.5 is good, but it's still at the top of the table for software engineering, where Claude and Codex are better. Like most software engineers or most people coding are not using Gemini 2.5. They're using Claude and Codex. So in real world applications, Claude and Codex are better, but in the evaluation world, Google is still sitting at the top. So this goes on for a while. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So the tasks are taken from 44 occupations from 9 industries contributing to US GDP, so it's very specific. And the evaluation set includes 1,320 specialized tasks. Okay, each meticulously crafted and vetted by experiences. So they are things like a legal brief, an engineering blueprint, a customer support conversation, or a nursing care plan. I wonder if they're going to give us, I want to see the list of the 44. While it spans 44 occupations and hundreds of knowledge tasks, it is limited to one-shot evaluations. Okay, so it's not using full reasoning models, but just one shot. They give the task to the AI to see how it does. So it doesn't capture cases where a model would need to build context or improve through multiple drafts. Future versions will extend to more interactive workflows and context-rich tasks. So in those tasks, when we're using AI intelligently, we don't one-shot. We use the AI and work with it to shape up our work. So something like a nursing care plan, when we one-shot that, we just put in a prompt and some information and get an answer, and then we copy-paste that and that make that the plan. That is generally poor practice. Instead, we'd go back and forward with the experts, with the stakeholders, i.e. the person that we are making a care plan for, probably with the family of the person who's taking care, etc., etc., in order to get a better shape. But this first version of GDP-Val is just one shot. So it's going to take a task and some information, and that's it. Which is fine as a starting point, but it will actually underestimate how useful the AI is, because if we can use the AI better using multi-shot by having a conversation with the AI, we're going to get a better results from it. So how do we choose occupations? Okay. Oh, I just want a list. Here we go. So real estate and rental. So concierges, property, real estate, community association managers, real estate sales brokers, and counter and rental clerks. Government recreation workers, I don't know what that is. Compliance officers, first line supervisors of police and detectives. So not police and detectives, but the supervisors, because remember, this is pure knowledge work, so it's harder to model field work. Administrative service managers, child, family, and school social workers. Interesting. Manufacturing includes mechanical engineers, industrial engineers, buyers and purchasing agents, shipping, receiving, and inventory clerks, and first-line supervisors of production and operating workers. Professional includes software developers. Okay, this is the big category. Software developers, lawyers, accountants, computer and information system managers, and project management. So I'm very interested to see what happens in this category, the professional, scientific, and technical services, because these are all careers or areas that AI is coming for hard. Healthcare, registered nurses, nurse practitioners, medical and health service managers, first line supervisors of office administrative support workers, so admin, and medical secretaries and administrative assistants. No doctors, interestingly. So they've gone for registered nurses and nurse practitioners. I'd love to know why not doctors in this case. And then finance and insurance, customer service reps, financial and investment analysts, financial managers, personal financial advisors, huge usage, and security, commodities and financial service sales agents. Okay, a few more. Retail, pharmacists, private detectives, fascinating, wholesale trade, sales managers, order clerks, etc. Information, audio and video technicians, producers and directors. News analysts, reporters and journalists. Okay, so I don't think this study is going to get some good press after this. Film and video editors and editors. Okay, so this is not just going to be text-based by the looks of it. I think they're going to give it potentially images and video. I'm not sure if it's multimodal. Okay, so all in all, very, very cool. I will link the full... It's not a paper, the information about this new eval. I'll link it in the newsletter, which you'll be able to get free inside. If you follow the link in my bio or the link underneath this video, you'll be able to get that newsletter, and I'll give you the link so you can actually see the tasks. So it gives you example of the tasks, gives you experienced human deliverables, and then what they're expecting the AI to look like, and then it talks about grading, etc. All in all, this is one of those potentially boring but very valuable additions to the progress of artificial intelligence, because it's going to be helping us to focus AI on actual job tasks. So instead of, is it very good at these top level mathematical tasks? Is it very good at these hypothetical coding tasks? Or no, is it good at putting together a nursing care plan? Can it help us with an electrical wiring diagram, etc., etc.? Much more useful. Which I think is great if all of the models start to go in this direction and focus on practical usages rather than pure academic prowess. Right, I'm going to hop over to questions because I've been talking for a long time. Thank you for your patience. Sometimes people get annoyed in the chat and they'll be like, he's just talking. The reason I'm just talking is because I'm also preparing these videos for YouTube. So what you are seeing live is the production process. So these videos are being filmed in 4K, 60 frames per second, and they'll go to YouTube as like nicely edited videos. So make sure you are subscribed over there. But that is the reason why I'm not stopping all the time. What I do is I'll do a little news segment, and then I'll hop over to the questions like I am now. It's also quite hard to find your questions amongst everything else. Is GDP right? Is it actually accurate? Is India actually 10 times poorer than US? GDP has a lot of criticisms, including the non-inclusion of like non-economically valuable work, like childcare, for example. It's probably one of the best measures we have, but it has a lot of problems with it and how it is measured and how it's measured in different countries, etc., etc. But I think this is the particular use here with GDP eval. They're just focusing on US, and they're just focusing on US industries and US tasks defined by, is it the Bureau of Labor and Statistics? I forget who there's someone in the US. Yeah, US Bureau of Labor Statistics have a list. These are all the occupations and these that contribute to GDP that we measure. So I think starting with that is perfectly fine in this case. Obviously it gets complex when we are comparing countries, but I think they're doing it internally within the US, and that's valid. Jolly good. Right, I'm going to pop over to something else from OpenAI. Nope, that's GDP val. Here, and tell me if you've got it. I think it's only in the US at the moment, so all our US friends are probably asleep right now. But ChatGPT, we have another acronym now that we have GDP eval, which sounds an awful lot like GPT. So ChatGPT has a new feature called Pulse, ChatGPT Pulse. And it is a version of proactive AI. So normally when we work with an AI, it's up to us to start the conversation. If you are building an application that you want people to use, if you want to make your application sticky, you want people to be downloading it and keep on using it, because later you're going to monetize them, then you need things that bring them back to the application. So think of Duolingo, for example, and how the owl in Duolingo will send you passive aggressive messages saying, hey, have you practiced Japanese yet? This is a way to bring people back into the application every single day, and that boosts the numbers for the company, their weekly and their daily active users. And it helps to create a habit in the users. It's just something that you do. You go and check on certain apps every single day. ChatGPT have added something called Pulse, and I'm pretty sure this is them pushing towards having a more sticky application. So OpenAI is launching a new feature inside of ChatGPT called Pulse, can't say it properly, which generates personalized reports for users while they sleep. Pulse offers users 5 to 10 briefs that can get them up to speed on their day, and is aimed at encouraging users to check ChatGPT first in the morning. Yeah, they want you to be checking on it like you would a social media application or the news. Pulse is part of a broader shift in OpenAI's consumer products, which are lately being designed for work for users asynchronously instead of responding to questions. Features like ChatGPT Agent, I've done a few videos on that, or Codex aim to make ChatGPT feel more like an assistant rather than a chatbot. And with Pulse, OpenAI seemingly wants ChatGPT to be more proactive. So personally, before I go to bed, I'll always set up a ChatGPT Agent task. I want to be sleeping while it's off doing something for me. So this is asynchronous usage. You don't have to be there typing and reading what it gives you. Pulse seems like an additional step. So when you wake up every morning, it's going to give you, hey, these are the things you should know about what's going on right now. So it seems like it could be roundup of news articles, like updates on a specific sports team, as well as more personalized brief based on a user's context. So I think if you give it access to your Gmail and your Google Calendar, which I don't really recommend because we saw a jailbreak, I think it was 2 weeks ago, using Google Calendar in particular, so I don't recommend it. But if you do give that kind of access, it will be able to pull in information about, hey, this is what you're up to today. You know, remember it's somebody's birthday and you need to get them a present, etc. And it's going to give you a report every morning. So each report is displayed as a card featuring AI generated images and text. Yeah, users can click on each one to get the full report and then can query ChatGPT about the contents. Pulse will proactively generate some reports, but users can also ask Pulse for new automated reports. So for me, for example, I could ask for one, hey, can you give me the AI news and updates that came in whilst I was sleeping, like in America? What's the newest things? And it would be able to prepare all of that and deliver it to me in the morning. So to help me to prepare for this show. Really cool usage. Core part is that it stops after generating a few reports and shows a message, great, that's it for today. So it's an intentional design choice to make the service different to engagement optimized social media apps. Okay, so it won't just keep giving you stuff. It will only give you a handful of things. Makes a lot of sense. Here we go. Starting Thursday, it will roll out Pulse to subscribers on the $200 a month pro plan. So it's going to start on the higher plan and then it will come down to all users further down. So plus subscribers, $20 a month, should get access soon. But first they need to make the product more efficient. So this is quite normal. The rollout tends to be pro plus free, and then it kind of filters down through that. If users have the memory features turned on, it will pull in context from previous chats to improve your reports. That's really cool. I know there are privacy nightmares here, but it is really cool. OpenAI's personalization lead, Christina Wadsworth-Kaplan, gave an example of how Pulse automatically picked up on her love of running to create an itinerary for her upcoming trip to London that included running routes. Very cool. And it's compatible with the connectors, so that allows you to connect into other applications. So if you are set up with Google Calendar, Gmail, etc., it will pass through your email overnight to surface the most important messages in the morning, or access your calendar to generate an agenda for upcoming events. Again, privacy nightmare, very cool. And it's going to be up to us to decide how much information we want to give our AI assistants in the future. Because the more information we give them, the more valuable, the more useful, the more context they're going to be able to have in order to help us in our daily lives. But that's going to require giving up privacy, giving up a huge amount of information to these models and to the companies who run these models. And whether or not that is something you want to do is a personal choice entirely. It's hard to overlook how much Pulse could compete with existing news products such as Apple News, paid newsletters, or traditional journalism. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be using this to deliver my news summary every morning, so AI news. Because right now I have some automations in place, I have some lists, but I still need to scan through it. This would give me a way to curate that a little bit more, especially because I can give it my criteria, the kind of things that I like to cover on the show, and hopefully it can surface those for me, deliver it in a nice message every single morning. Very, very cool. Eventually, OpenAI would like to make Pulse more agentic. I mean, it is the buzzword, so of course they do. To the point where it could make restaurant reservations on the user's behalf or draft emails that users could approve to be sent. Ooh, that's cool, huh? So with the birthday example, oh, it's your fiance's birthday coming up, and I know where you are based on your geolocation. I know where you're going to be based on that day. I have access to your calendar, so I know what times you're going to be free. Would you like me to book in this restaurant at this time? I know that you and your fiance went there before 2 years ago, so maybe it'd be like, it would have this information and this context. Hell, if I had put in a chat maybe the year before saying, you know, I need great reservation places for an anniversary dinner that I'm going to have, it would have that information, and it would have, you know, the 5 restaurants that we discussed. Maybe it knows which one we went to, but it still has those other 4 recommendations. So it would be able to say, hey, why don't you try out XYZ, that restaurant? And while I'm sleeping, it could go and agentically check the reservations and check if there's any availability on that day. I mean, again, the more we give away in terms of our private information, the more powerful these tools become. But it's always going to be a balance. But yeah, we could do some very cool things with this. Oh, this TechCrunch article ends with, but such features may be a long way out and would likely require OpenAI's agentic model to improve a great deal before users would trust it with such decisions. I think we overestimate people's privacy, or how much people care about privacy. Because I looked yesterday at the app Neon, which is number 2 in the App Store in the US, which basically records your private telephone conversations and then pays you when it sells those recordings to AI companies, and it pays you 30 cents per minute, up to a maximum of $30 per day. So that's 200 minutes of calls. So if you're on the phone for, what's that, 3 hours, you can make $30. But that's $900 a month, which is not bad. Not bad at all. I'm sure that will go down. But people are very willing to sell their private information or to give companies access to their private information. So we talk about privacy and the horrors of giving away our data. But I think that a lot of people do not care. And the fact that Neon is company number 2 in the social media category on the App Store suggests that as well. You give them a small monetary incentive to give away their data. Absolutely. Take it. Take my recordings. Train on my voice. Who cares? Is it true Copilot is now given ChatGPT style responses? Copilot, the Microsoft Copilot 365. Yesterday they launched Claude, or the Anthropic models inside of Copilot. So it should be a lot better now, because previously it was not great. Sorry, Microsoft, it wasn't, no, which is why you've added Claude. Cognation, I guess Pulse completely replaces RSS feeds. Yeah, RSS is a weird one as well, because since they killed Google, what is it called? Google Feed Reader. I was looking at Killed by Google yesterday. What's the RSS one? Google Reader. God, it was killed 12 years ago. Google Reader went from 2005 to 2013, and it was killed 12 years ago. and it was an RSS Atom feed aggregator. Since then, there hasn't really, RSS kind of got murdered, because there were applications like Feedly, I guess Pocket, but they were all premium applications, or to get the full usage, you had to use the premium ones. So since Google Reader got killed off 12 years ago, RSS I think was already on a bit of a decline. But this looks like as you say, a smarter way to do it. It's gonna have a level of intelligence as well, because often when you set up an RSS feed, it is just a fire hose of information. So having a bit of a filter and being able to tweak that filter using natural language through artificial intelligence, very, very cool. Cognition. The Duolingo icon changes on your phone from happy to sad if you're not using it. Yeah, they've done such a good job of creating stickiness, to the point where people like boast about their Duolingo streak, which is amazing. Like, they've done a great job in terms of their product design. Right. Oh, Drew. Do both parties on the Neo app get paid per minute up to 30? No. So if you are, it depends how you do it. So if you're talking to another Neon user, you both get paid and you get the 30 cents per hour. If you are recording a telephone call to a non-Neon user, I think you get paid 15 cents per hour, which is because the other person's recording is cut out. This is the huge privacy issue with Neon, and why specifically they've used some very sneaky language in their terms and conditions, I think, to get around the wiretap laws specifically, because if you record a conversation with a third party, there are huge legal ramifications with that. What it looks like they're doing, Neon hasn't talked about this, but it looks like they get your whole audio file, so both sides of the audio, and then they're going to cut out the second party. Still means the raw file is probably sitting somewhere for at least some amount of time, and whether or not they actually do cut it or whether they use that as free training, we don't know how shifty they're going to be. But no, if you are on a call with a third party who is not a Neon user, the other party will not get paid, only yourself. Cool. I'm going to hop over to another study. Ooh, we love studies. So this is Dora. How are developers using AI inside our 2025 Dora report? So this has been one of the kind of battle lines in pro AI versus anti AI. There's people like Dario, the head of Anthropic. I think it was about a year ago. He said that 90% of code will be written by artificial intelligence. And a year went past and it doesn't seem like that is the case. It does seem like the case is about 30% of code measured by functions, not by lines, which is a more useful way to do it. I won't go into the details, but by functions, not lines, are written by AI. So it's not 90%, but it is 30%, which is a lot, considering that 3-4 years ago it was 0%. So we don't necessarily need to listen to the CEOs, the people who are hyping up artificial intelligence. This is their job. Their job is to hype up AI so they can raise money. So when someone like Dario says it's going to be 90%, we have to take that with a pinch of salt. But it's still 30% of functions are being written with AI. And we have a new report here from from Google, and it is a Dora report, which is a survey of 5,000 technology professionals globally, validating what we all suspected. The way software is being built has profoundly changed. What does Dora stand for? I don't even know. Google Cloud's Dora research program has been investigating the capabilities, practices, and measures of high-performing technology-driven teams and organizations for more than a decade. All of these things that I read out, they've definitely not been written to be spoken aloud, because some of these sentences are labyrinthine. And our 2025 research makes it clear that AI is no longer a novelty, but a near universal part of a developer's toolkit. So massive adoption meets major productivity gains. So this is not the 90% that Dario was talking about, but it is higher than the 30% that other reports were looking at. And we also need to look at it in the context of that 95% of all AI pilot projects fail. The MIT paper, the MIT NANDA paper, which was, I've covered it several times, it was an absolute junk. Actually, it wasn't a paper, it was a report. So we need to give them a bit of slack, but the methodology in it was trash, basically. So let's have a look. So reliance on tasks. This is asking 5,000 software developers. So it's a decent sized survey. So writing new code, 71%. It's pretty high. That's a lot of people. And again, remember, this is a new technology. This has been around for 3 years. It's been useful in code for a year or two. So 71% of the 5,000 respondents are using AI to help them write code. That's an awful lot. Modifying existing code, 66%, writing documentation, 64%, etc., etc., etc. Maintaining legacy code, 55%, that's the lowest, interestingly. So it is being used by the majority of these 5,000 surveyed software engineers in writing code. 65% of those surveyed are heavily relying on AI for software development. 37% reporting a moderate amount of reliance. Well, that's already more than 100%. 20% a lot and 8% a great deal. Okay, I don't know how those numbers add up, but a lot of people are using AI, let's put it that way. And are they finding it useful? Yes, significant productivity gains. Over 80% of respondents indicate that AI has enhanced their productivity, and 59%, 60% reported a positive influence of AI on code. Yeah, so obviously we can have a look at the methodology of how this was, how they ran this report, but this looks pretty sweeping. They've asked 5,000 software developers, 5,000, technology professionals. So we'd have to question, what is a technology professional? Who does that include? And this is globally, and it seems like a lot of them are using AI for code. The vast majority of them are. This doesn't tell us how much of the code is written using AI, either in terms of lines, which is not a very good way to measure it, because writing more lines doesn't mean the code is better. If anything, it means it's worse. Or in terms of functions, which is probably a better yardstick for measuring the volume of code or the percentage of code. But overall, this shows us that it is being used extensively. So the people who are saying, who are laughing at Dario, the head of Anthropic, when he throws out numbers like 90%. Yeah, sure, it's not 90%, but it's an awful lot. It's going to be an awful lot, and a couple of years from now, that 90% is probably going to be true. Not even a year or two from now, I imagine. I think it's important when they hype up artificial intelligence. Often they will overhype, because remember, they're trying to raise money. This is their job as a CEO. However, even if the magnitude is wrong, generally the trajectory, the direction is correct. And betting against AI has been, it hasn't worked out well for people so far. Anyone who's like, it'll never do this, it'll never do that, generally 6 months or a year from that time, it can. I mean, I'm biased, you know what side I'm on, but betting against it is generally not the correct bet. Awesome. So, have a look at the DORA report in full. I will again put it in the newsletter. Make sure you're signed up for that. It's totally free, and you can get the whole report. I will be reading it later today. We need to download it. I tell you what, I'll download it and make a direct link for it just to make it a bit easier, and that will be in the newsletter. Let me hop over. What small companies to watch out for? In terms of what do you mean? Like AI companies? Most of the big moves are by big players. It's because it just costs a huge amount of money to make your own models. It's now hundreds of millions to train a model. So most competition has been eliminated. It is a handful of Chinese companies. It is OpenAI, xAI, Anthropic, Google, Google and Meta, I guess. That's kind of it. Mistral, maybe. But it's maybe 10 companies, less than 20 for sure, who can actually afford to create foundation level, base level models. Above that level though, above that level of abstraction, there are people who are building AI applications on top of this. So some really impressive companies are people like 11 Labs. 11 Labs are amazing. They're doing great things. Gamma, I really like. Gamma is a slide making tool. They've expanded out from that though, so it's not just slides. But unlike a lot of AI design companies, the people at Gamma actually have an eye. They have a tasteful eye, so they've managed to put that into their AI products, so that when you create something with Gamma, it actually looks quite good instead of looking like trash, which is the case for most AI generated content. And then there's the vibe coding tools. So they are smaller companies compared to OpenAI, compared to Microsoft, compared to Google. So it's going to be your Lovables, Bolt. Although Bolt's not the company. The company of Bolt is... I've totally forgotten. I've forgotten the name of the company. I'm sure you can find it. So Lovable, Bolt, Replete, V0, Base 44. They just got purchased by Wix though, so they're not really a small company anymore. So there's a lot of exciting companies in the space, but it kind of depends on what level you mean. If you mean the foundational models, maybe 10 companies, and then above that there's a much more interesting ecosystem. Because Lovable, for example, they are the fastest ever company to reach 100 million annual recurring revenue, the fastest ever software company in history. I don't know why they specify software company. There must have been another company not in the software field that got to 100 million annual recurring faster. I can't think who that would be though, because software tends to be the fastest growing. Okay, how are we doing for time? 42. Right, I'm going to do a slightly silly story, but I thought was fantastic. So pissed off fans flooded the Twin Peaks Reddit with AI slop to protest its AI policies. So over on Twin Peaks is a show which you should watch. It's very good. Back from the 1980s? No, 1990s. Must be 1990s. The moderators on Reddit allowed for AI generated posts to be posted onto the Twin Peaks subreddit, and the members responded in the most wonderful way possible, which was creating absolute AI slop and flooding the Reddit with total trash images until the moderators gave up and reversed their course. So people on Twin Peaks, r/Twin Peaks, flooded the subreddit with AI slop images of FBI agent Dale Cooper and ChatGPT generated scripts after the community's moderators opened the door to posting AI art. The tide of terrible Twin Peaks related slop lasted for about 2 days before the moderators reversed their decision and deleted all the AI generated content. I just love the way of protesting AI by flooding the place with AI. I just thought it was so funny. Unfortunately, most of the images have been deleted, but there are some pretty good ones. I don't even know what these mean. Oh, this is Agent Dale Cooper hitting the griddy, I think. I can't even tell. Yep, it's absolute slop, but I think this is one of the best anti-AI protests I've ever seen, is using AI to absolutely flood a place, which you can do with AI because it's very efficient at making crap as well. I've got some comments on YouTube, so I didn't see you, Drew. Oh, about code, yeah. It goes to show that what our data is worth to them, yes. So the Neon telephone data, the fact that they pay you, the user, 30 cents per minute of your recorded private conversation. They pay you 30 cents up to $30 a day for 200 minutes. That means that they are then turning around to the AI companies and probably selling that for each minute for $1, $2, like a lot more. They're going to be making a margin on that 30 cents for sure, which means that AI companies are willing to pay quite a lot for that information, for your private conversations. And the reason for that is they need new content. So already the whole internet has basically been put into the language models. Already, I'm sure all films and audio books that have been pirated, probably TV series, etc., have been fed into the audio models as well. So they need new sources of audio constantly, and they want more natural sources of conversation. So hence recording telephone calls and paying you 30 cents per minute for your telephone calls. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to set up an AI which would then have telephone calls and then sell those transcripts back to Neon, which would be very similar to the protests we see with the Twin Peaks story that we just looked at, is using AI to foil AI companies and foil AI moderators, in which I'm fully in support of that, because it's chaotic good. Right, I'm going to answer a few more questions if there are any, but otherwise I'm going to hop off this stream. What I will do, I'm actually going to go straight into my second stream today, so I can take the rest of the afternoon off. Well, I have some work to do, but not be at my computer is what I mean. I don't see any questions, so therefore I'm going to wrap up. The videos will all be on YouTube, probably over the weekend or Monday, so a cleaned up, edited version of the stories that we have covered. They're much, much easier to find over on YouTube. They will also be put into the newsletter. The newsletter comes out every single morning at 8 a.m. It has a written summary of what was discussed in the previous live stream, as well as links to the videos directly. So that allows you to kind of keep up with everything without necessarily having to tune in every single day, although I do love it when you do. And you can ask your questions here, obviously. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter, and have a lovely weekend.